Israeli media has published reports suggesting that the IDF not only knew about Hamas's attack on the Supernova Music Festival, but also held emergency meetings. However, they chose to not inform the festival organizers in advance. The dismissed information proved fatal for about 360 party-goers just hours later, while an additional 40 were also taken hostage at the event. Israeli media reported on an investigation that claims 2 emergency meetings were held late night on October 6th. Israeli spies and military commanders sat down first at midnight and then at 3 a.m. to discuss the imminent assault. The attendees concluded that Hamas was only carrying out a training exercise. The Israeli forces are now being accused of withholding the information. The music festival was organized in close cooperation with the IDF, and the IDF permit read, quote unquote, "The Northern Brigade is responsible for regional security during the event in the fenced space across from the Gaza Strip." The organizers of the festival said they would have been able to save the bloodshed had they been informed even an hour in advance. The warnings received by the IDF were only reflected in a feeble preventative measure. But a clear sign of pre-hand information being available, an IDF unit known as Team Tequila, specialized in preventing abductions, was deployed at Nahal Oz. The area is barely 20 minutes from the music festival site in Reem. Israeli troops were also ordered to increase surveillance at the Gaza border, while 2 commando teams were alerted about a possible incursion. Now, these are not the first media reports suggesting that the IDF had pre-hand information about these deadly attacks. In fact, a recent investigative piece by American media outlets claimed that the IDF knew about the attack, not days, but an entire year ago. The report was based on documents, emails, and interviews obtained during investigation. A document codenamed Zericha Wall by the Israeli authorities outlined in detail exactly the kind of devastating incident caused by Hamas on October 7th across Israel. To give us a better understanding of this, we are joined by David Dunn, Professor of International Politics from University of Birmingham. Good morning, Mr. David. My first question to you is that these revelations have, of course, caused shockwaves. Are we to believe that these intelligence inputs were not really shared with the political leadership in Israel?
Yes, I think that shock is universal, because for 2 months, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, and the intelligence associated with that have denied they have had any information. But slowly this information is leaking out that they had a year's notice of the 40-page plan that Hamas used, that they had a detailed understanding of them practicing these activities. And then, of course, this recent revelation about the actual music festival itself shows a massive amount of complacency. And I think what it shows is that intelligence is made up of 2 things. It's information gathering and the analysis. They had the information, they just failed to analyze it properly, and it looks like they failed to share it with their leadership. It's not clear how far it went up, but it seems as if that the army were complacent and dismissed these things as not credible, and therefore didn't act in a way that could have saved thousands of lives.
Would you say that this was just complacency, or did they really underestimate Hamas, David?
I think there's a number of aspects to it. I think that essential to that is they thought that Hamas lacked the capability to do an operation of this scale. So when they saw that 40-page document with this plan for effectively an invasion of Israel at several points, they dismissed this as aspirational. It was an imaginative document. They're the words they used to describe it. because fundamentally they thought that they were so powerful that Hamas wouldn't dare to attack on the scale.
Would you say that this was merely complacency, or was there perhaps more to this, why this was not acted upon?
I think there's a degree to which they lulled themselves into a false sense of security. Hamas were very clever in asking for the right for Palestinian workers to cross and work on Israeli farms. They were given all the impressions that they were accepting their situation, while at the same time planning this devastating military attack. So the Israelis were fooled. They were complacent, they were arrogant, and they ultimately paid a high price.
So you think this was more a function of complacency and perhaps arrogance, and not really an underlined reason there, where, when one doesn't really know what exactly went about?
Well, another aspect of this is that the Gaza division had been moved from that part of Israel to actually support the further placement of settlements in the West Bank. So ideologically, the Netanyahu government was keen to actually expand the frontiers of Israel, was using the army for that purpose rather than defending its existing borders. So an aspect of that was also at play in the decision to have to leave this part of Israel really badly defended.
Right. Well, at the outset, David, the site of the music festival was very close to the hostile Gaza Strip. So how exactly is the Netanyahu regime justifying this failure, at least on paper?
It's very interesting. Netanyahu said now is not the time for inquiries. And one of the reasons why that this war is going to be a long war is, as soon as the hostilities finished, that government will be forced, and indeed the intelligence officers will be forced to account for themselves. And it may well be the case that government fails, because fundamentally this is a political failure, and it is a massive political failure on the part of the Netanyahu government.
Okay, thank you so much, David, for joining us with those inputs.
Always a pleasure.